existing vehicles.
I mean, demand for our vehicles in terms of desire to own them may as well be infinite. It's indistinguishable from infinite at this point. So affordability is what matters. So as you make the car more affordable, we will have demand go crazy, basically. The issue is how do we build the cars? The hard part is building the cars. I cannot emphasize that enough. The hard part is building the cars and the entire supply chain that goes with the cars. This is a logistics challenge of extraordinary difficulty. All the things that have to go into the car have to scale with the car, while everything is doing an exponential ramp. And if you miss even one of those things, doesn't matter why, earthquake, flood, fire, revolution, I thought I've heard them all. Any part of that supply chain gets interrupted, then you have a seizure. The hard part is building the cars, by far, and the supply chain that goes with it. Do you guys want to talk about the supply chain stuff?
Well, they might.
I think, in the presentation I'd mentioned, perfection is a passing grade. We really need everything to happen perfectly, and the strategy for mitigating the different risks, some of which were anticipated and some weren't, is really bespoke to the situation. And really you need subject matter expertise and a deep knowledge of the particular supply chain you're managing to come up with those strategies. So we've seen everything from, as Elon mentioned, first the tariffs that flew back and forth, then the ocean logistics issue, the chip shortage, COVID, floods. There was a fire in a fab in Japan that knocked down. There was a massive COVID spike in Malaysia where a lot of the chips, the back end of a lot of chips was down there, and more. This was one that Elon was involved with as well, and it's nerve-wracking, but somehow it works.
Yeah, and although it's difficult, I think we have been laying the foundation to be as intimate to all the tiers of the supply chain, building that control and directing the different tiers of supply chain. That's the way we are trying to mitigate the risks that come with it. Again, dual sourcing, triple sourcing, having redundancy is the way we've been trying to mitigate for it.
Yeah, on that point, when we think about vehicles, when you think about 3Y as an architecture, SX as an architecture, our next generation platform is more than one segment, and really we're thinking about all the segments that are available that we haven't captured and where the market would be, and designing it with our supply chain partners so that we can go quickly through those segments for where we need. But to Elon's point, if you make a car desirable and affordable, oftentimes it doesn't necessarily matter what segment it's in because it's one that you want. And we've seen that with Model 3 when a lot of people thought the sedan was not going to be a great hit, but we sell tons of them. So the next generation platform is not one vehicle, it is multiple, and it's on a segment that we will really try and focus on that affordability and desirability point moreover than where we started.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's an old saying, like, battles are won with tactics, wars are won with logistics. The logistics challenges here are enormous. And when you start, being a very significant percentage of an industry, you can't overcapacitize. It's not realistic. And some of these things, like you said, you dual source or triple source, you can do that maybe for small things, but you can't do it for big things because if you're triple sourced and it's like having a plane with 3 engines where if any of the 3 engines fails, you crash. It's like, so and you have to either overcapacitize, which drives your CapEx up, and it has idle suppliers somewhere and big warehouses, or you design to some overage that's, reasonable, and then you have expedite costs because inevitably something goes wrong somewhere and you got to fly things around. So it's really just the rate of progress is the rate at which we are able to scale a 10,000 logistics problems. The most significant of those is the cell production. And so we actually deliberately try to overdo cell production or cell supply to have that exceed what is needed in vehicles. Because if it goes below what's needed in vehicles, then the factories stall. And to scale production of stationary storage, which is much easier to scale than vehicle production. So that's strategically, I think, a good thing. Yeah, the capex for Megapack is tiny compared to capex for vehicles. Also Megapack demand is quasi-infinite. It basically, as long as we are competitive with utilities, we can sell as many like yeah, quasi-infinite demand for that, really, for many terawatt hours. So we got a long way to go to get to 50 terawatt hours per year.
Dan? Let's go to Dan.
Thank you. Dan Levy, Barclays. I think we know competitive dynamics differ significantly
He
by
just
region.
skipped it. I know he was going to
Cost
do that one.
dynamics differ by region. We saw that with your China Gigafactory. Far superior cost to what you had at Fremont. I realize it was a new factory, but there are clearly different dynamics. So to what extent are the cost strategies that you've laid out today, do they differ?
Look at that. He wouldn't even talk about it.
Or is there more of a
He wouldn't answer the question about the
approach on
station wagon Tesla's working on. Next vehicle. Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van are stupid.
Yeah, I think we're pretty consistent on the strategy here. We'll try to as much localized as possible.
Overpriced
like in China,
Teslas.
95% over 95% of our supply chain are localized, all the way from the first tier to